Hi, this is Mr. Mitchell with a video about gases and gas laws. When we're talking about gases, we often need to talk about the term pressure. We hear the term air pressure, we hear the term pressure in some of the laws that we talked about, Bernoulli's principle and so on. Here's what pressure is measured in. Pressure is force over a certain area. For example, here you have this bed of nails is what I'll call it, even though somebody's standing on it instead of laying on it. This person is able to stand on these bed of nails because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of surface area. However, if there were only one or two or three nails standing on them would be a very bad idea. So the wider the area, the smaller the number would be in pressure. See, pressure is in force over an area. Now, the area is going to be in square meters, and the force is going to be in newtons. So it'll look something like what you see here, 40 over 5 equals 8. And the unit for pressure is going to be in pascals. Now, pressure is going to mean a lot in gases, even more than it is, and definitely more than it is in solids, and also means a little bit in liquids as well, but especially a lot in gases. Let's talk about one of the principles, one of the laws that has to do with pressure and gases. Boyle's law states, if you decrease the volume of a gas-filled container, the pressure increases. Now think about this. If you decrease the volume, kind of like in this container here, if you suddenly make the container half the size, then all the molecules in there will only have half the space. And since the molecules are moving, bouncing around off each other, off the edges of the container, then there would be more pressure in that container. You know, I think that completely makes sense. One thing that happens with balloons, balloons, of course, have gas in it. Balloons, when you release them and they go up and up and up and up, they will end up changing sizes. If the pressure is less on the outside or the pressure is more on the outside will depend whether this balloon will expand or contract. So whenever it expands, then the volume, whenever it contracts, then you have more pressure, which is kind of like this. It has the same amount of molecules in it and less space. One thing happens with fish that are caught in a deep area. Fish that are caught in a deep area have a swim bladder, which is like a little section of it which fills up with air, so it can have balance down in the pressure of the deep. Whenever the fish is brought all the way to the surface, sometimes their bodies cannot adjust because of the decrease in pressure at the surface. So the decrease in pressure is coming from their swim bladder getting smaller. So thought that might be an interesting example. Another law about gas and pressure is Charles' law. In Charles' law, it states, gas expands when heated. Gas expands when heated, that's why with a hot air balloon, you have some kind of heating mechanism that puts fire and heats up the air that's in here. So the air that is in here is going to expand. And you may remember when air expands that you have the molecules that suddenly have a bigger place in which to be. Now, according to Boyle's law, if you have a smaller place, you have more pressure. So since you have a bigger place, then you have less pressure. So gas expands when it's heated. Now, there is a formula you can barely see here for Charles's law and for Boyle's law. But we're not going to delve into either of those formulas. That's kind of an upper level physics type thing whenever they delve into these formulas. But I'd like for you to know the principles of these laws. Of Boyle's law, that if you decrease the volume of a gas-filled container, the pressure increases. And if you heat up the gas in a container that expands. Also, I'd like for you to know the idea about pressure and be able to plug things in here and use pascals for the unit. Well, I hope you've learned a little bit about us talking about gases and the gas laws.